Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited to see all of you here at our conversation with Claire Hoffman about her new book about Aimee Semple McPherson. I know we have a big crowd today, tons of questions. Don't worry, we will absolutely get to them. So basically, Claire's new book is called Sister Sinner. In it, she follows Aimee Semple McPherson's mesmerizing journey as a religious leader, a megachurch founder, and subject of immense fame and scandal. I'm so fascinated to hear about her disappearance and reappearance, particularly. A bit about Claire before we begin. Claire Hoffman is the author of the memoir Greetings from Utopia Park, Surviving a Transcendent Childhood. She's also a journalist reporting for national magazines on culture, religion, celebrity, business, and more. She's formerly a staff reporter for the LA Times and Rolling Stone. She's a graduate of UC Santa Cruz and has her master's in religion from the University of Chicago and an MA in journalism from Columbia. She serves on the boards of the Columbia Journalism School and ProPublica and the Brooklyn Public Library. Today, she's going to be in conversation with Alta's editor-at-large, Mary Melton, an absolute delight and a wonderful colleague. So get excited. This this interview will be recorded and posted to Alta Online later today. It will also be emailed to you. Check your email later this afternoon. We're going to send you links to a review of Claire's books, where you can buy it, the recording of this whole interview, and anything else that should pop up. I see folks letting us know they're coming in from Pasadena, Florida, Hermosa Beach, Alaska. It is so great to see where our community is zooming in from today. Thank you for doing that. If you have a question, pop it in the chat or put it in the Q&A button, and I will make sure that either I pop in at the end to ask it or Mary asks it. And with that, from Novato, California, I'm going to turn things over to Mary.
Thank you so much, Beth, as always, terrific hostess who launches us here. And Claire, thank you. You have been talking so much, I know, about this book in the last couple of weeks. I think you said you're going to be doing some podcasts after this. So I appreciate you taking the time to fit us in, but I'm so excited to talk about it.
I'm so grateful to get to have this conversation with you and with the Alta community. I think it's like exactly my community and the books community. So it's exciting.
Yes, we welcome you with very open arms into this wonderful literary loving community and really engaged readership who love hearing about history and unknown chapters about California and the West. And surprisingly, there are so many people, and I always find this surprising, but of course, I've lived here a long time and written about Los Angeles for a long time, but I'm still always so surprised to hear about how people don't necessarily know who Aimee Semple McPherson is. And life is pretty short, Claire, and you spent 5 years of your life researching and writing about this woman. So as a way to explain to us why you found her so compelling and also at the same time explain to us who she is, I would love to know how you decided you wanted to devote this much of your life to telling the world about her.
Yeah. Well, where to begin? I mean, first of all, just on how famous she is, there was a point where I was reading everything about her and I thought, she's too famous. Like it's already been done, Like I talked myself out of her at one point because there have been lots of books about her over the last century.
Mhm.
But I heard about her in divinity school and just sort of made a mental note of her at that point. I went to divinity school in Chicago and learned about her in a class on American religion and thought like, oh, that's just funny that this woman seems so important and fundamental and kind of like a founding parent of American evangelical culture and Pentecostalism and Christian entertainment and this idea of like the church as a like city and the church as a place where you go to be entertained, like all these kind of big ideas, the use of technology with Christianity. But yeah, so I just remarked on it to myself that it was weird. I didn't know about it and moved on with my life. I moved to Los Angeles and I worked at the LA Times and I would drive by her temple every day. So I would Yeah, it's right there at the corner on your way into downtown, next to Echo Park Lake, and it's just a funny building, you know. It's got this big dome and these it's huge and white, and it just is, you know, it's remarkable. I mean, there's so much about Los Angeles that you drive by these buildings and you think like where and when did this, like, how did this happen? How did it come about? And so I had that feeling with it. And then over the years, you know, I learned about Aimee. There was a bunch of different things that kind of kept kind of echoing in, like, okay, this is interesting to me. And yeah, I think it's 5+ years, Mary. But what I love about her, and to kind of explain, is, you know, she was at once this incredibly important, serious figure in American history that really should be known and should be part of what I think like young people learn about when they learn about American history. And at the same time, she's really flawed. She's this charismatic figure who arguably made a lot of mistakes. And because of those mistakes, she's been sort of erased from history or represented in ways that I felt like were um, not sort of full, I would say, like not a full-bodied representation. So I decided at some point, like, I think that I can contribute to this, like, sort of canon, mini canon on Aimee, in that she was somebody who I thought deserved both like empathy and scrutiny. And I feel like I'm good at both of those things.
And I want to dig into that with bringing in your journalistic background. But before we do that, what did you think maybe going into this? Because as you say, she's someone who has been written about before. She's been portrayed in pop culture, right? Most recently, not very thinly veiled in the Perry Mason season 1, I think it was, where she was like Sister Alice,
Alice, yes.
right? Um, so she's come up a lot. She's popped up a lot. What did you think as you began the research on this book? What did you think that you might have to add to the conversation, just given your rich background in both studying and reporting on theology and religion and thinking a lot about this as a topic, and at the same time thinking a lot and writing a lot about Hollywood and celebrity? Like maybe you had some thoughts going into it of like, oh, this is what I think I could add to this conversation. And then did that change while you were actually doing the reporting? Like maybe what you thought going into it, which it often is the case, right? When we're writing stories,
Yeah.
we think we're going to go into it with this, and then this actually, we think it's this, and then it's that. So take us through that evolution of your thoughts, or of how you approached the book and what you learned about her.
Yeah, I think, you know, I had this sense at first. I mean, honestly, I'm sort of like a basic enough feminist that I actually assumed that, not actually, but I assumed that she was falsely accused initially. You know, I'd read just enough to know about this kidnapping episode and the scandal and these trials. And my thought was like, oh, of course, this woman who is so powerful and so ambitious is, um, you know, being taken down by her enemies, which was her allegation. And the more I read, you know, in terms of like documents and the trial and the sort of play-by-play in the newspapers, I sort of was like, oh, well, maybe that's not right. But um, I also felt like she was right. Like her enemies were terrible. There were people out to get her. There were people who had a lot of vested interest in taking her down. And so I think I felt like I could put that. I think that to me is a great story. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of story I like to read, complicated, ambiguous, nobody's good, nobody's bad, but lots of things are happening that are really crazy. Like that's my kind of story. And so that was where I thought I could come in. And then in terms of reporting on religion and reporting on celebrity, you know, I think I had the experience growing up in the community that I did that gave me a perspective on religion that is like very much like I really value and treat with dignity religious experience, which isn't always true by the media. You know, like if somebody tells me they had a religious experience, I believe them. Like why not? You know, I mean, unless they have like reason to lie, they had that experience. So I believe in belief, and I've really seen the power of belief in my own life and in my community's life and my friends' lives. So I really put a premium on that, first of all. And then in terms of celebrity, you know, I have reported on a lot of celebrities, and I've reported on a lot of celebrities who um are in trouble, I would say, or, you know, kind of having being challenged and contending with the dark side of fame, which I think is really interesting, and it really overlaps for me um with religion. And so like with my first memoir, I had the sense, you know, as a kid, like, oh, you know, our guru is like, you know, once I became disenchanted, I was like, oh, he's, you know, this kind of Wizard of Oz character who's controlling everything for nefarious ends, right? Like a real classic cynic perspective. And as I got older and I worked on my first book, I started to see, be like, oh, it kind of seems like it would suck to be a guru, you know, like I actually feel
Not what it's cracked up to be.
no, it's not. It seems like a lot of work. It seems really alienating. It seems like it really messes with your mind, you know? And I thought about people that I'd written about, like Amy Winehouse or Michael Jackson or Justin
Mhm.
Bieber, who you see like are these or Prince, like these incredible talents, who seem like they're in control from the stage, but you see that actually the stage can be very alienating. It can be very draining. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
so I just saw a lot of crossover with that, and I mean, Amy is like also this incredible moment. I don't want to overstate it because the world is chaos, but I think that like 1926 was like a real moment in time when the scandal happened. Like she was incredibly famous, but still thought that she could do something like disappear or control the media. Like it just seems like this moment in time where we're switching from privacy to like the public eye and mass consumption. And she was right at the tip of the spear on that. It's a long answer.
No, no, it's a great answer. And I love the correlation between guru and celebrity. I don't want to give away the whole book because I want people to buy this amazing book, which I have to back up to actually feature on my screen. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover and just an amazing book. But so I don't want to give it all away. But for those who don't know what the scandal is that we're talking about, like what's kind of your 30-second, 1 minute like wrap, you know, just to help frame it, because it's the pivot, right? It's what the book's built around.
Yeah, it's built around it, and I have to tell you, I could be wrong because I wrote that book and I have lived inside of it, so my perspective might be like flawed, or foggy at least. But I never worry about giving it away because the story is so crazy. Like,
Okay. Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, there's just
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
once you're inside that trial, like it's like, wait, what? A blind lawyer and like an abortion doctor who's killing himself and like igniting flames and a doppelganger. Like it's so crazy. So the details, I feel like that's what the book is built on, is details. And Wikipedia usually can tell you right away
Right.
these facts, which are that Amy, at the height of her fame in May of 1926, went down to Venice Beach with her assistant to work on her sermon. And she sent her assistant off to call her church with notes, and she went into the ocean to swim laps, which she was given to do. And she disappeared. She vanished. And it was, you know, pandemonium, you know. People panicked. There were, you know, within 24 hours, they were like dragging the bottom of the sea. There were tens of thousands of people holding a vigil. Two people died looking for her. The newspapers, you know, kind of lost their minds and were printing extra editions in the morning and the afternoon, reporting on every aspect of her life and this kind of great soap opera tragedy. And 35 days later, she reappears. She is resurrected, so to speak. She walks in 600 miles away from the desert of Mexico. And she tells an incredible, kind of unbelievable story of being kidnapped off of the beach that day, and being taken by people from the underworld in Los Angeles, being punished for her advocacy, this whole story. And she goes back to Los Angeles, and right away there's just a lot of questions about her story. And there's a grand jury investigation, and in order to look for kidnappers, but they can't seem to find the kidnappers. My favorite character is the blind lawyer who's the only witness to to seeing her kidnapping, which is just like, it's just too good. It's yeah. And then there's ultimately charges brought against her, her mother, her former radio operator slash alleged lover, and a schizophrenic doppelganger for making the whole thing up. And the allegation was that she ran away to Carmel by the Sea with her alleged lover, and then the schizophrenic doppelganger to say it was her sister, gets complicated.
It's absolutely insanity.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it so speaks to all of these contradictions that I really think she embodies, right? This like well, you say it on here. She's a sister and a sinner, right? A saint and a sinner.
Yeah.
She's a and I heard someone else interview you, Claire, and they talked a lot about like Aimee's sex appeal, and I felt like personally, and I could be wrong, but like I felt in reading your book and what I know about her, it feels like more of like a motherly thing to me than in terms of her celebrity than sex appeal, but I could be wrong. But just again, that contradiction of the mother and the celebrity, and she's a God-loving preacher, but also a showwoman, right? So she embodies all of these contradictions that I think women in public life still today really are always fighting. And I wonder if you think about her today, do you think she would have survived the scandal today? Like, do you think that our relationship with celebrity now, could she have ever bounced back from that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's interesting because on one hand, I think that we maybe allow a little more complexity in the lives of our religious leaders now,
Who are
and
normally men, though still, right?
yeah,
Men.
and usually like then they're like actually kind of, yeah, it's when it's consenting adults, I think maybe there's more leniency, maybe. But on the flip side, I think that, yeah, her relationship to the truth and her desire to control the story, I think that would really be challenging in a world full of cameras. And, I mean, there were a lot of witnesses who saw her in Carmel, but now you would think there, we all have a digital footprint. So, I mean, there's the part of me that just, this is what I mean about like kind of my fascination with 1926, where I'm like, oh, was that the last moment where like someone that famous thought they could just disappear?
Right, right. Yeah,
I just think that's so fun to think about, like what changed over time.
yeah.
But I think we generally are, I mean, part of my process in starting to think about the book was during the 2016 election, and I had just finished my other book, and I was thinking about my next book, not actually starting it. And I was really fascinated both by the way that Hillary Clinton was so vilified, like sort of whatever your politics, like I'm from Iowa, which is a purple state, they voted for Obama twice and Trump twice, it's like, I don't, these sort of, but very representative of America. And I went to go see Hillary speak that summer in 2016, like in a barn in Iowa somewhere, just to, it was near my house. And um, she just was so she was like a mom. Like she looks so much like my mom, she's little and she's like in her pantsuit and she's kind of folksy and she seems like she's like working really hard. But like the media, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't like when people say the media, but there were just stories about her or, the things that were being said about her by her political opponents or even people, everyday people was so intense. Like the figure was so dark and stark. And it really got me thinking about like, what does it mean to be a woman in the public eye and how much we contort them.
Mhm.
And just to say, like, this thing about Amy's sexuality, a lot of these early male biographers or journalists who would write about her, they would talk a lot about her body and her hair and her looks and her sexuality. And I felt like I was learning a lot more about them than I was her. Like it does feel like that her appeal was in some ways about what was being mirrored. I don't find her, I always get asked, like, oh, was she a sincere religious actor? Was she intentionally using her sex appeal? And my sense is like she was very she believed completely in spreading the gospel. I don't get any sense, and have spent a lot of time in her archive, that there was any duplicity in that sense, right? Like she truly felt chosen by God to spread the gospel. Um, and I think she just naturally got on a stage and was her. And whatever that was, like if that had sex appeal to people, that had sex appeal. If that was motherly, that was motherly. But it was her. Like women kind of bring all of that, and then people see what they see.
Yeah, and it is, just to get back to the fame thing for a second, it is
It is.
phenomenal that she was able to do this without what we have now for amplifying people's celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like without that, the social media is just incredible. What did you learn? There's a really strong thread, I think, in the book about motherhood and sacrifice as a theme. And you're the mom of two daughters, and had a very close relationship with your own mother in terms of, especially around spirituality. So what did you learn about your own relationship with your mom and you as a mother, and like through this? Did you get any revelations through looking at her own relationship?
Yeah. It's like so big. I mean, I would say my takeaways would be, part of Amy's superpower, besides her kind of natural charisma and her ability to capture an audience and to connect with people about the gospel and meet people where they were at, was her mother. Like her mother was her superpower. Her mother believed that Aimee was divinely prophesied and believed fully in Aimee being an evangelist, which was not something, nor is it still something that women are generally allowed to do. Like it's weirdly, it might have been more common to see a female preacher at the front of a Pentecostal church in the 1920s than it would be now. They
Mhm.
existed then and they exist now, but it actually has gotten harder.
Mhm.
So, just which is to say, Aimee had this incredible ambition, but her mother's belief in her was her superpower, like
Mhm.
total commitment to Aimee, at all costs. On the flip side, later in Amy's life, her relationship with her mother frayed, as did her relationship with her daughter, who she wanted to have that kind of matriarchal legacy. She wanted to hand over her church to her daughter. Um, you see a lot of complexity, I would say, around kind of self and motherhood. I don't know how to say this, but like at the end of her life, Aimee really chose legacy over intimacy. And,
Mhm.
and and I don't know that men have to make choices like that. Like you see her making those choices and you think like it's tough. But I think you also see her projecting a lot, as did her mother onto her. And I do see like the dangers of projecting your own stuff, like, oh, like don't make the mistakes I made, or like fix the mistakes I made by doing things differently, and all that energy and baggage. It's like a fog of, I don't know, not a fog of war, but like that's like the fog of motherhood or the fog of family, where
Mhm.
like these outside stories that aren't actually happening, but that people reacting to them can make for bad situations.
Yeah. I know we want to get to some audience questions. I'm so curious, just as I really want to ask you about the LA-ness of this all too, but squeezing this in here, you're wrestling with this mystery of her disappearance right throughout the book. And there's narrative tension in that, right? Because the truth is really elusive here. And as a writer, as a journalist, like, what did you lose or gain by embracing that ambiguity?
Hmm. I mean, I love ambiguity. That is where I have suffered in some of my reviews. And I'm,
Most of the reviews that at least all the reviews I've seen have been fantastic. So
oh, well, anyway, I'm not going to flag them for you, but there's been a little bit of like blowback, I would say, on me not condemning her. Um,
okay.
Which I would say, first of all, I'm like, all the evidence you're citing to condemn her, you got in the book that I wrote and researched very heavily. So you seem to have plenty of evidence to condemn her if that's your jam. But yeah, I mean, it's a 100-year-old mystery. There was never any, well, there's not a clear takeaway.
Mhm.
I feel like I know what happened, and so I understand why someone writing a review would be like, "Wait, I know what happened. Why isn't she saying it?" But that's just not, first of all, I don't think it's that interesting. I actually think some of that doesn't age very well. Like I am sort of at heart like a newspaper reporter, like it's not for me to say, and
Mhm.
thus Amy failed because she X, Y, and Z. Like I don't, I like giving people the facts, and I, having read so many old books about her, I feel like some of the condemnation of her did not age well.
Mhm.
And I think she is this like incredible two opposites, right? Like that's the title, Sister Sinner. Like
Mhm.
she did incredible good works in the city of Los Angeles, just that alone, right? Like her outreach to communities, feeding over 1 million people during the Great Depression, like very muscular, incredibly well organized social outreach and impact on the city of LA. Like she really was a force for good. And like two people died looking for her, like that is a crime,
Right. Right.
Um, and so I think for me, it's more interesting to watch how she navigated it than to pass judgment on that navigation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I could see where that could be still create that kind of hesitation. The and then just the LA-ness of it before Beth comes on. Like, I've spent, I feel like a lot of my career, like, I don't know if I would say defending LA, but just trying to help people think about, like, a lot of these cliches you think about the city are just really bad stereotypes, and it's actually a really great thing that we're this place that people come to, and I almost can't say the word, like, to reinvent themselves. It makes me
Yeah,
crazy, right? Like,
inform.
yes, exactly. But at
Start
this,
anew.
exactly, yeah. Recharge. So I think that, like, the reality is, it's true that this is a place, and in your investigation of this, and you've lived in many places in now at this point, but you've also lived here. Like, what is it that you think it is about the place that makes someone like Aimee go, that's where I can be me?
Yeah, I mean I love LA too, and am often its defender. And I think about, when I moved from the East Coast to Los Angeles. I mean, my dad had lived here, so I had a relationship with it. But I left New York and, kind of a more traditional journalism world to come to LA, and my thought was like, ugh, like in New York there's like a writer every 6 inches, and everyone knows everything about New York. But Los Angeles is like a place of unknowns, like a place where you can do do something different. Like you don't, it is a nonconformist place, like it's just people are making different choices, and there's less like normative behavior here. I mean, which means like really wild stuff can happen. And I mean, just like from a history of religion perspective, means that Los Angeles has been a place where a lot of new religious movements have come out of, because of that.
Mhm.
So I just would almost like go back to my thinking of that, why I came here, where it's a place just that where people are less confined to to talk about like family lineage, like the communities that they came out of. There's just people come here in a less connected way, I would say, than the East Coast. And there has been for a century this idea of making stories reality, like that has been a fundamental part of the city, and it is infused. Like people, um, there's less of like, oh, that's a stupid idea here. You know what I mean? For better or worse. But like I think for better, like there's a reason technology and entertainment come out of California, is like there is just it allows you to move into the future in a way that I think the East Coast, while super interesting and dynamic and really smart people, there's more of a normative pressure. That's just my experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly put. Yeah, I love that. All right, Beth, I know we have a lot of questions, so join us.
I just messaged Mary. I was like, we got so many
Oh,
questions.
sorry, that's great.
Um, Claire, this is so great. I have more questions for you, and I hope you come back to Alta Live because I want to hear way more about your thoughts on LA in and
I
of
would love to.
itself.
And in very LA fashion, somebody has a leaf blower outside because, like, why not, right?
Of course,
That's the
of course.
sound, the sound.
Oh, well, I can't hear it.
Okay,
So,
good. Sorry.
um, all right. So this question comes from Bob. Claire, do you have anything to add about Amy's relationship to another LA landmark, the standing historic KRKD radio tower atop the Spring Arcade building in the heart of downtown LA's historic theater district?
I don't. don't don't even know about that. I mean, she had KFSG, and so she had two radio towers on either side of the dome of her church for decades. And I think there was even a neon cross, which was like really wild for a while, but I don't know about this other radio tower.
All right, fair enough. Next, Andrea asks, I'm curious how Matt Sutton's biography of McPherson figured into your research. If your sources are different, and how you take on McPherson, how McPherson differs from Sutton.
Oh, my version of her differs. Is that?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Sutton's book is a great book. It's an academic book that has quite a bit more analysis about her impact on contemporary politics and Christianity. So, um, his is actually not organized narratively, first of all. So it's not, I wouldn't even call his a biography, although, I mean, it's excellent. I don't mean that as a diss, like I mean it as a compliment. He did incredible research, and his archives were at the Foursquare Church. So I had access to his archives as well. I think how it differs, I would say I did have more access to the trial records than he did. The church gave me the trial transcript, although redacted, which they had not shared for a century. So I had more of the kind of court play-by-play than he did. But in general, I would just say those are two really different books. Like my book is written for a general audience who is interested in a incredibly ambitious woman who impacted the world in all sorts of ways. It has mother-daughter story, it has a trial story, like it's very narratively driven. And I think has a lot of analysis, which is excellent. You maybe read both if you really are feeling a big Aimee appetite.
We all are.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We have so many questions from Alta Contribs. And so I want to make sure we acknowledge them. I think it's a real testament to your book and to your work that there's so many people who write for us that are like here and want to hear what you have to say. Dante Elijah Holly writes, did you see Aimee as a parallel or predecessor to Catherine Kuhlman or Apostle Catherine Crick?
Definitely Catherine Coleman. Yes, she is a predecessor, and actually, there's like a funny thing. I
Who
don't.
are they? Forgive me for not knowing.
They're both evangelists. And Catherine Coleman she was a televangelist, like an early, and she did a lot of divine healings. And I know more about her, so I'm sort of addressing that one. But she apparently saw Aimee preach as a young woman, and maybe even um, yeah, like maybe even donated money to her or something, but then was very ambiguous about acknowledging that legacy, which is kind of interesting, like that she wanted to be like, completely like a apparition unto herself. So yeah. But there's a great book on Catherine Coleman. I'm forgetting the name right now. Is it The Miracle Woman? It's something like that, or that might be the Frank Capra movie, but it's fantastic. Highly recommend.
Our wonderful colleague Liz Casillas is taking copious notes, and we will try and do our best to send you an email with links to anything that pops up today. Louise Farr, another Alta Contrib, asks, I interviewed Catherine Kuhlman decades ago and was fascinated by her refusal to recognize her own power. All
Hmm.
glory went to God. Um,
Mhm.
I haven't read your book yet, but Louise will, I promise. But she's dying to. Did Aimee acknowledge her own power?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I love this too. I mean, this is like where I am a woman. I have birthed women. I love women, and I'm like, women are so complicated. So Aimee would say, I am not the healer. I'm just the office girl in the waiting room, letting people in to see Jesus. So first of all, like an incredible image, right? And very kind of 1920s idea of the work that she was allowed to do. But yeah, Aimee was really, this is kind of one of my theories sort of about her, is that Aimee was just this like force. Like you could almost, I mean, you watch the Martha Stewart documentary or something, like she's this incredibly ambitious force, but she was not allowed to do it for herself, right? Or for power. And since a young age, she grew up in this incredibly religious home. So it kind of makes perfect sense that she would end up in this career, so to speak, where she is allowed to do so much and say so much, but you have to give it all back to someone else who's vaguely male.
Always.
Yeah.
Last question. I want to be super conscious of your time. There's a lot of questions about just kind of like the logistics of her disappearance, and maybe I can combine those into a bigger one. How much research were you able to do? Do you know exactly where she disappeared from?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna do this like contest, but then everyone was like, you're crazy about doing like, why would you do a contest? But because I wanted to do this, but like I dream of giving a tour, right? Because I've walked it all, right? So you go down to Venice Beach, and there was one, she told the same story over and over and over, like verbatim, but right away there was a little difference in where she initially told the cops that she had been taken, and then where the second time, like when she told them when she was in the hospital, like this is where I was taken. And then when she walked them to the beach, it was a little different. And yeah, there's like the old hotel that used to be there. There's a pier that used to be there. There's just the drive, like she got lost on Pico Boulevard coming in because there was construction, which I was like, has there been construction for 100 years on Pico?
Understandable. Yeah, totally.
Like, is that the same people doing construction? Um, yeah, so anyway, I have walked through it all. I've swum a couple miles there. Like just because I like to swim in the ocean, not because I'm not dedicated to my craft. But thinking about it all. So yeah, that was always a fantasy of mine to to share it like with some other super nerd.
well,
Bad.
Marcia is a super nerd in our chat who says,
Okay.
yes, do it. She will come down to LA for it.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm
let's do it.
American.
Alta tour. We're doing it
All the
there.
Let's do it.
tour.
And
Yeah.
you can go to her parsonage. So, when she disappeared in the years before she built the temple in 1923 and disappeared in 1926. She built this little 2-bedroom apartment that's on the back of the Angelus Temple, which is where she lived with her mother up until her disappearance, and then afterwards through the whole trial, which you can imagine was very intense. And it's a museum now to Aimee's life. So in general, you don't hear a lot about Aimee in the Angelus Temple, has been my experience, or in Foursquare, but there is a museum that's dedicated to her. The dress that she's wearing on the cover is in a frame on the wall there, which is super cool.
The real dress?
A real dress. And just because it's a California group, she has these it's like a very simple apartment, but the bathroom has the most amazing tiles. Like, it's everything's simple, but the bathroom is like for a queen, and it's like these hand painted like black and pink tiles. It's so gorgeous.
We
Yeah,
love our tiles.
we love our
So, Southern
tiles.
California in particular, we really love our tiles.
I just love the intel. Like, who knew?
Yeah, I have a great collector of facts for this book.
Well, this book, Sister Sinner, buy it, everyone. We're going to send you a million links. Mary Melton, did I miss anything? Anything else you need to add?
I'm so thrilled to be able to chat with you. It's a fantastic book. I'm very picky about my LA histories, and this one nails it.
Hey, thank you. That means so much to me. It really does. I care about it too. So
Yeah.
I tried. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for being interested. I really appreciate
We're
it.
Oh, yeah.
crazy interested. Folks, before you go, next week, we're going to talk about a cult leader who maybe was not shot by a detective. It's an article in the current issue. As we do here at Alta Live, we kind of take stories or reviews or whatever from the magazine and the website and expand on them. So please, please, please join us for that. That's a week from today, Wednesdays at 12:30. Otherwise, Claire Hoffman, congrats on the book. Thank you so much for joining us. And Mary Melton, thank you so much for moderating today.
My honor. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Really
Bye.
appreciate it.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.